Welcome back to another YouTube video. In today's video, I am going to be rating my highest and lowest books of the year. So we're going to go through from January to December, and I'm going to tell you which was my highest rated and which was my lowest rated in each month. So without further ado, we shall just get into the video. Before we start, I haven't got the physical books here with me. They're somewhere behind this monitor here, but I am just going to put pictures on the screen. If I'm being totally honest, I'm just being slightly lazy, but I am absolutely shattered after Christmas, so please forgive me on this occasion. And yeah, let's get started. So in January, I started off the new year reading The Assassin's Blade by Sarah J Maas. This was like the first book. I started with this book, so you can read it in different orders. However, I started with The Assassin's Blade, which is, I think it's 5 short novellas, and I absolutely loved it and gave this book 5 stars. I also, in January, gave Quicksilver by Callie Hart 5 stars. Absolutely loved it. And I am currently reading Brimstone. So it's been nice because I started the year with Quicksilver and I'm now ending the year with Brimstone. So yeah, they were my highest, and the lowest was Never Never by Colleen Hoover. This came in at 3.5 stars. I'm trying to remember what the book was about. Obviously, it's not been a lasting memory for me. It was okay. If I remember, there are 2 young, a female and a male in there, and I think the female loses her memory and she keeps replaying. It's a very odd book. I did enjoy it. I gave it 3.5 stars. However, it's just not one of the best books I've read. So moving on, we are moving to February. In February, I read the first book in the Crowns of Nyaxia world. So that was The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I absolutely loved this book and I gave it 5 stars. That was by Carissa Broadbent. I really like her writing, just clicked with it. The book was full of trials, and I just loved Rain and Araya as a couple and separately. So yeah, definitely a top book for me. And then, to be honest, I didn't have many low star ratings in February. A lot of them were 4 star, so I shall put them on the screen here. We have Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell. We have The Murder After the Night Before, and I can't remember who this was by, but you can see it on the screen. We have Once Upon a Broken Heart by, I'm going to think of it in a minute, but it's on the screen here for you to see, and Six Scorched Roses, which is the novella after The Serpent and the Wings of Night, which I absolutely loved. So these were all 4 star books, and 4 stars was the lowest rating I gave during the month of February. Then we moved on to March. March, we had a clear 5 star for me, and we had the lowest was 3.5. So the highest book in March for myself was Sunrise on the Reaping and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, which is the second book, which is part of the duology. So you've got The Serpent and the Wings of Night and The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I need to make sure I'm saying it right. So I loved them, loved that duology as a whole, really, really enjoyed it. And then I had a 3.5 star, which was The Housemaid is Watching by Frida McFadden. I really loved The Housemaid, the very first book. Really enjoyed that one. Can't remember what I rated it now, and it was, I think it was 2024 I read that one. However, I feel the second and the third book were not quite as good. But yeah. So, but Sunrise on the Reaping, let's not just gloss over that one because that was absolutely outstanding. This is part of the Hunger Games series and is the 5th book in that one, and it's a prequel before we see the original trilogy. This one comes before, and it features Haymitch's story. This was just absolutely so emotional to read, and yeah, I just thoroughly loved it. We then move on to April. April, we had 1 5-star and we had 1 3.5. So the 5-star went to The Crimson Moth by Kristin Ciccarelli, or Ciccarelli, I'm not quite sure how you say that still. I really loved this book. I know it's not everybody's favourite, but I really enjoyed this, and this is about a witch and a witch hunter, so if that's your kind of thing, you may enjoy this one. And then the 3.5 rating went to 1 by 1 by Frida McFadden again. This, I look back at this book now and I think I should have given it possibly 3 instead of 3.5. However, that's how I felt in the moment, so I'm not going to change this rating. We then move on to May, and there was a clear winner in May. I have now altered my rating system, and I probably would give this like infinity stars if I could, and that is Binding 13 by Chloe Walsh. I have had this book series on my shelf for I don't know how long, and I just kept putting it off. I'd heard that it was great, loads of people saying it's like God tier, and I just never picked it up. And then yeah, I picked it up in May and I never looked back, and I think I've read since then Binding 13, Keeping 13, Saving 6, Redeeming 6. So I finished off the 2 duologies, and now I'll be moving on to Taming 7, which I haven't read yet. And then the lowest rated in May was The Boyfriend, again by Frida McFadden. So I've had some good reads off it, but I've also had some very mediocre. The Boyfriend I found very odd. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it mentions blood on multiple occasions from what I can remember, and I am quite queasy with... I love fantasies, and obviously there's a lot of blood in fantasy books, or there can be, and that doesn't bother me somehow. But if you've read this one, or you are going to read this one, you will see what I mean by the blood aspect, and it just made me feel a bit icky, and I just didn't particularly enjoy that part of it. But yeah, it was an okay book. Then we move on to June, and we had again 2 5-stars in June, and they were Spark of the Everflame and The Rebel Witch. Spark of the Everflame by Penn Cole was absolutely amazing. It's like a new romantasy fave for me. I loved the ACOTAR series back in 2024, and I've always been sort of, it's not like ACOTAR, but there are different parts of the world that you travel to. I just really enjoyed it, and if you haven't got round to this series yet, I highly recommend. And I have read all 3 books that are currently out, and I'm waiting for the next release, which I'm hoping is going to be in 2026. I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. We then had, like I say, Rebel Witch by Kristin Ciccarelli, or Ciccarelli, and again, really loved this duology as a whole. This was the 2nd book in the Crimson Moth duology, and yeah, I couldn't rate it any higher. The way it ended was fabulous, loved it. The lowest rated book in June was The Baby Dragon Cafe, and I can't think who this is by. I think it's QT somebody, but I could be wrong, but it's here. And yeah, it was, a lot of people really enjoyed this one, but I just found it very average. It wasn't a bad book necessarily, but I'm not going to be continuing this series, and I did DNF it after I've read the book. I did finish the book and gave it 3 stars. However, I've DNF'd continuing with the series. We now move on to July. July was another good month. So the highest rated was 5 stars, and my lowest rated was actually 4.25 stars, which is really, really good. The highest rated was Glow and Heat of the Everflame, which was the next two books in the Spark of the Everflame series. I think it's called the Kindred's Curse Saga. And these both got 5 stars as well. Absolutely loved it. The world building is just incredible, I think, in these books. And we get to move around a lot and see a lot of different places. And then the lowest rated book, which is by no means a bad book, and I really enjoyed it, and I will be reading the next one, is A Fate Inked in Blood. And this is by Danielle Jensen. I think there might be an initial in the middle, and I'll pop it on the screen. Yeah, this is a like Viking inspired book, but I really did enjoy this one. And then we move on to August. August was just amazing. I had 3 5-star books in August, which was incredible. And then we had the lowest rated, which was 3.5. So the highest rated were Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I've not read any of her writing before. It was my first time reading this author this year, and I absolutely loved her. And I have now got The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue for Christmas, which I will be reading very soon. And then we had Redeeming 6, which was in the Boys of Tommen series. Really loved this one. And then we had Original Hunger Games. You know, them books are just iconic and they deserve the rating that they get. And then the lowest rated, which was really hyped up on YouTube and Instagram, was Nightshade by Autumn Woods. It's not a fantasy, and I think a lot of people go into it thinking it is, but this book is like, it's a blend of genres. So we had a bit of mystery in there, a bit of thriller moments, romance, there was like mafia, and yeah, it wasn't a bad book. And I may continue with this series, I haven't decided yet, but it was okay for the moment, but it just wasn't anything that really like hooked me, if you like. We then move on to September, and in September I didn't have any 5 stars. I had a 4.5 and a 3.75 as my lowest, so really good grade ratings still. The 4.5 stars was The Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. I really enjoyed this one. I think, again, this book in particular splits the vote with a lot of people. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Again, we are moving around the world and seeing lots of different things, and it left on a cliffhanger ready for, I think it's called Rights of the Starling, which is coming out in 2026. So I will be reading that book for sure. Then the 3.75 stars was Catabasis, or Catabasis, however you want to say it. And I did enjoy this one. I don't think it was my type of book entirely, which is why I rated it a bit lower. So please don't go on my opinions on this one. Read it for yourself. It was very well written. I did enjoy it, but I just feel like it was aimed at possibly a different audience rather than myself. Then we move on to October, and in October I read The Songbird and the Heart of Stone and gave it a 4.5 stars. Now I think, if I'm being totally honest, I should have given this book lower. This didn't feel like a typical Carissa Broadbent book. Like I say, I've read The Serpent and the Wings of Night, Six Scorched Roses, The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I read the other novella, which was Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, and then I went into this one. And this just didn't give the same feelings as the other books. So I'm not sure on that one. The rating may change, but as we stand, that was one of the top books in October. another book that I thoroughly enjoyed giving it 4.5 stars and I wouldn't change is The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. I absolutely love this book. I almost feel like this should have been a bit higher. However, I think some parts, it started off really, really well and I was so absorbed into the world, and then I feel it went a bit flat, if I remember rightly, in the middle, and then picked up again at the end, hence the rating. But then the lowest rated book was The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. I picked this book up in 66 books. I wasn't going to continue this series. I did think, don't bother. However, it was so cheap, this book, that I thought, oh no, just pick it up and see. And it was okay. It wasn't a bad book, but yeah, I'm not sure whether I'm going to be reading The Wedding Witch anytime soon. We then moved on to November and we had a clear 5-star book and we had a 2.75, which I think is my lowest of the year. The 5-star book was The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. I love this. Really, really loved it. To try and describe it, it's like different houses, I want to say, but they're not really houses, and it's all like fox, bear, raven. We've got the different gods, and it was just, I just thoroughly enjoyed it. And I'm not very good at describing books, however this one, I just, yeah, if I can recommend one book to you, probably this one would be one of them. I really enjoyed it. This is part of the Eternal, I can't think, it's called the Eternal something, and it's a trilogy. It might be the Eternal Pathway, I'm not sure. Yeah, it's going to be a trilogy and I cannot wait for the next book in this series. The book that was lowest rated was The Christmas Clue. It was like a tiny little book, and this was based on like the board game Cluedo, and I went into it thinking it was going to be a really festive, fun time, you know, with a bit of a, like, murder mystery, if you like. And I personally felt this book was quite dark, and it turned quite dark, and I wasn't expecting it, and I think that's why I gave it a low rating, because it just didn't give me the feels I was after, and yeah, I didn't enjoy this one. So hence the lower rating. December we will include in this one, because as I'm filming this, you probably can see here, it's the 27th of December. I've done another video early on this morning that you will be probably seeing round about the time I'm filming this one. So I am going to include them, even though we've got about 4 days left. And the top books this month are definitely going to be Brimstone. I'm reading that now, and I've got about 150 pages left, I want to say, but I've got a feeling it won't be disappointing me. I'm absolutely sure of it. And at the moment, I'm going to say that's going to be a 4.75. I also read in December Alchemy of Secrets by Stephanie Garber. Now, this book isn't being rated highly by a lot of people, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Really did enjoy this one, and it kept me hooked all the way through. So it is very much people's different views and opinions, and obviously you've got yours and I've got my own, and we all just need to respect each other basically. But I really enjoyed this book and gave it 4.75 stars. And then I'm gonna say for my least favourite this month is another Stephanie Garber, and that is Spectacular, which is a Caraval novella. So this rounded out the series for me. We had Caraval, Legendary and Finale, and I wanted to read the novella just because it was like a Christmas take. But to be honest, I found this very mediocre. There wasn't a lot to it, and I just didn't get out of it what I thought I was going to. So yes, they are all the books I have read this year. Well, I've read a lot more than that. However, they are the highest and lowest rated of the year. Please let me know yours in the comments. I would love to know what other people's highs and lows were of 2025. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much for being here this year. I appreciate each and every one of you who click and watch these videos, and I will see you in the next one. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.